playing. Shoot. Okay, I got it.
I'm a trendsetter. I'm a trendsetter. I'm a trendsetter. Okay. Let go. Hey, okay, I know I'm here to stay. Counting on my wins, so I can't play it safe. Trying to go against us, get you out the way. Go hard, it's the only way to play. Let me say, I'm a trendsetter. I'm a go-getter. I'm a trendsetter. I'm a go-getter. I'm a trendsetter. Who can do it better? I'm a go-getter. I'm a trendsetter. Hey, look, they keep calling me, could you ride this beat? Look probably okay. It ain't no problem. See, I can mold this thing like pottery. Better get on myself. And before the top and I'll need your help. We set the tempo. We run this thing as simple. Let's go. I'm locked in. Know your place, I'm top 10. And all my haters watching. So you know I keep on clocking. Let's go. Time. My whole style of go. My place, I hold.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to another edition of the Fear of the North podcast. Thank you all for joining. We appreciate you all. We hope that everyone had a lovely, lovely Christmas. We hope that you all are enjoying the holidays and staying warm and staying safe and staying jolly. And it's because of that we feel, let's go in and record, get this joint going with ahead of New Year's so that we all can enjoy New Year's with the family, and be right and go in, into the New Year in the right spirits, and with that, yeah, exactly. And within the midst of all that as well, we just wanted to make sure that, we were here and that we could be here together and talk about the best division, at least in our opinion, in the whole National Football League. There's a lot to dive into. The Bengals coming out, showing that they're still alive. The Steelers looking a little beatable right now, looking like they're got some things to retool ahead if they want to make a deep run as we thought they could. Ravens still looking strong, looking like themselves again, consistent. Yeah, you wonder if there's going to be consistency, and then there's Paul Brown's other offspring, which we'll leave that for later on. Not that they're important, respectfully. So we'll keep it at that right now. But until then, yeah, I'm Myrie Harris. I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Sapphire, and the established author and journalist Chris Murray himself. We're all lovely. We're all happy and beautiful. And let's get into it, man. Let's ball. I like to say that sometime, because that's just what I be feeling sometimes. And right now, that's what I'm feeling, man. So before even diving in, Chris, Sapphire, did you guys enjoy your Christmas? You guys enjoying the holidays so far?
I am enjoying my holidays, and I got to eat some good food, and I got to see a great concert. We had won a gift certificate to one of the best, cuisines of Southern cooking in the city of Philadelphia, South, and my friend Carol Riddick performed, who was a singer with Jill Scott, and it was one Jill Scott's backing singer. And she had me on her show on WURD every week, and we crushed it every week, talking about sports, life, love and life, because that was the name of her show, Love and Life, and all that. She's a big sports fan and one great singer. So I had a great Christmas with my wife. That's all I can say.
Beautiful. Sapphire?
Yeah, I mean, at my age, it's just nice to still have the majority of my family and friends, and just to celebrate life and, where I'm at with my faith. That's very important to me. So very mindful of the reason for the season. So everything was fantastic in my neck of the woods.
Awesome. And I also did have a good time going back home and enjoying the holidays. And I'll be back there tomorrow. That they know. So, yeah, beautiful. All right. Well, with that being said, there were also some teams that had some good holiday games, some good holiday performances, a lot to feel good about, and others that, got some work to do. Right now, we're going to start out with what was really, you say, the most electric game, at least matchup-wise and ending-wise, with Cincinnati. They hosted Denver, and they won. They're at 8-8. They are at 500. It's been so long since we've been able to say that about this team. For how good we knew this team could be, they were just so short within finishing games off right. and now things are really starting to gel. And it showed again within that 30-24 win over Denver. It went to overtime. A lot of so much drama within, from missed field goals to certain plays having to be made to really get it done. In the end, it all ended once Joe Burrow found T. Higgins for that little short 3-yard touchdown. So, opening thoughts within this game: what went right, what went wrong, and before we dive into the possibility in them if they can really make the playoffs the way that we feel they can.
I mean, I think for me, this was a game that everyone knew Cincinnati had to win to stay in the playoff hunt. And for me, it didn't matter how they won that game, which was evident, but that they needed to win the game. They needed to break this bad juju around them about pretty much like 3 to 6, 7-point game defeats. They just couldn't get over the mountain, right? I think that for them, they were fortunate they played the Denver Broncos. But at the end of it all, they did what they had to do. And to me, it shows even more why T. Higgins is as important to that Cincinnati Bengals offense as Jamar Chase. Those were my initial thoughts on that game.
My initial thoughts of this game kind of came down to this. Cincinnati has had so much, difficult luck, or just sometimes the other team has outplayed them. I think in that overtime, they showed a lot of resilience, because when they missed that kick, and I really can tell you, I was like, you had one job, to kick that field goal, and it went off the upright. But then the defense, and it's probably the best I've seen the defense play in that one series, that stopped Denver from getting a first down and running out the clock. Because had that happened, they would not have been in position to come back and win that game. And Joe Burrow showed that he's, to me, he should be, if it wasn't for the lack of wins, he would be an MVP candidate and whatnot, because I think that, he just drove him downfield. And you're right, T. Higgins played well, because everybody was looking for Jamar Chase. And so you got to have, if they're going to rotate their coverage to arguably not the best receiver in the National Football League, it stands to reason that you have to get the ball to T. Higgins. And I thought that was a great job. And I never thought Cincinnati was out of this, with that offense, with that quarterback. Joe Burrow, like I said, had the wins been a lot different, I think he's an MVP candidate and whatnot for this year. So from that perspective, it was a great win for them. And I like their heart and I like their grit. That tells me a lot.
Okay. And along with the pretty much piggyback what everybody said, I felt the same way. My takeaway was that this team has shown consistent resilience, and that was another example of that right there. And they're further proving and showing that it was always inside. It just never got out. It just never found its way out until when it really mattered most, when things were about to hit the fan and right ahead of them being eliminated, especially from playoff contention. And sometimes, not even just within NFL, but really in general, sometimes that's what it takes, almost being on the brink of, being pushed off the edge, or like off the bridge in some case, and you want to and you catch yourself and do everything possible to keep from that happening. That's what they have done, and they're doing everything in their power now to make up for what was lost early on in the season, and that is commendable on all fronts too.
Yeah, that's that I would agree with that. I just feel like it's almost like driving a 4-cylinder car on one cylinder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We know how explosive the Bengals offense can be, right? But yet, if I'm not mistaken, I think Broncos touched Burrow at least 5 times? How many sacks were in that game? You could tell they had a real focus on keeping him contained. I mean, yeah, he broke out a couple of plays, but they kind of kept him in the pocket. I don't know that as we move forward, and again, we could talk about, we got a question here. Do we think the Bengals will make the playoffs? Like, we know they need help, but even if they get there, looking at their defense and how you saw their defense perform for the majority of the game against the Denver Broncos, like, how likely do you guys really think, if they even make the playoffs, they can survive that first game?
I don't think it's likely at all. They're playing because the way it's setting up is that they're going to be, I think, the 7th seed. Correct me if I'm wrong. I read they in the 7th seed will have to play Buffalo because the Ravens are already going to be the 3rd seed if Pittsburgh or Baltimore will be the 3rd seed if Baltimore loses on Saturday or the Ravens win out on Saturday. They're locked in as the 3rd seed. Buffalo is locked in as the 2nd seed. Kansas City gets the bye, and then Cincinnati would have to go to Buffalo to play that defense and to play in that cold. And I don't think that Cincinnati's defense can stop that Buffalo offense in the ice and snow in Buffalo if it ices and snows up there. But that's going to be a thing. I don't think their defense, because the offenses, both offenses are good, but Cincinnati's defense is not as good as Buffalo's defense, and that's what this is. That's what I'm saying.
I understand, yeah, and furthermore, within the seeding and the possibilities, and not to get too far ahead, but for the Bengals to still make the playoffs, they would need a couple things to all happen all at once. In Week 18, they would have to beat Pittsburgh, which we'll get to later on a bit. They would have to beat Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh, by the way, because they already hosted them early on in the season. So now they have to go and beat them at their home in Pittsburgh. They would also need the Dolphins to lose to the Jets. If the Dolphins lost to the Browns, which we'll get to later on as well, that would have helped them, a little more beneficial for them. Instead, it didn't happen. So they really need them to lose versus the Jets on Sunday. And they'd also need the Broncos, who they just beat, to lose to the Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs, you would think, are going to be resting their starters. So the likelihood of the Broncos losing to them, not as likely as it would be if their main guys were playing. Now, that's what they would need. Regarding Cincy, if they were to get into the playoffs, could they win a game? I would say they would make it close because that's how dynamic this offense has been, and the way that they're gelling, that cohesion is so visible, and they would carry into the playoffs. But it would be hard to see them winning that first round game. They'd make it close. It would still be a game for sure to watch, but I don't think that they would come in there primarily because of the defense and because of their inability within the season as a whole to keep things right and to keep things gelling and to make the right plays and the right stops. It's always come down to the little things. It's really a game of inches. It really comes down to the little things within this game. And that would be hard for me to see that happening and working for Cincinnati defensively, not offensively. Offensively, 4 times or not, they're doing things the right way. I know there have been times early on in the season where we're wondering why they're not getting the ball to Jamar when it matters most in crunch time. That loss to Baltimore will always come to mind on that 2-point attempt, why they're not trying to go for Chase when he was the odd guy with 264 in the game. But since then, they've really been going well, and even T. Higgins has started to come alive a bit more, within his targets and really his contribution. So offensively, it'd be awesome. Defensively, I don't get any confidence in. Even with Trey Hendrickson tying with Garrett right now for most sacks in the league at 14 apiece, I still don't have as much confidence as others may.
Yeah, and I would say, and all 3 of you are correct about that because I have not trusted that defense all year. No. And they should have beaten, there were times when they should have beat Baltimore in those games. They should have beat Kansas City. And Sapphire, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
I'm just laughing because I'm thinking, but we know how funky the AFC North is, right? Like, yeah. After the last 3 weeks of watching Pittsburgh just implode, right? Given the close proximity of those 2 cities to each other, right? And in terms of fandom also, I don't know that it's out of the realm unless Mike Tomlin follows through on what he said after the game last week, that he is open to anything, trying anything that will turn things around. As bad as I think even the Cincinnati Bengals offensive line played in that Broncos game, I don't know that I cannot rule out the Bengals going to Pittsburgh and winning that game. And here's something else I really want your thoughts on. While Khalil Herbert didn't have probably half of the carries that Chase Brown did you both see that he averaged 6 yards a game? Like, let's really talk about this, right? Because, yeah, the Bengals need to win that game, and they need some help from those two teams that Irie mentioned. But they still have to win that game at Acrisure Field. We know that Pickens, I'm sorry, I should have said this too. We know that Pickens is seemingly having a tantrum. And we talked about this last week. Will he be able to re-assimilate in that offense at the point at which he left off before the injury? Talk to me, gentlemen. Talk to me about that Cincinnati-Pittsburgh game.
Wow. Well, I think that Cincinnati's on a great roll right now. And Pittsburgh, while they're in the playoffs, I heard a report, and maybe, I was listening shortly before we got on the air. I listened to a report from Adam Schefter because people are concerned about the fact that the Steelers have lost 3 straight games, but they've lost 3 straight games to the Eagles, Ravens, and Chiefs, 3 of the best teams in the National Football League. The Steelers, I think, will come into that game with a chip on their shoulder, okay? And the fact that, and in these rivalries within this division and whatnot, they don't want to see the Bengals in the playoffs and whatnot, just on GP, because they're rivals in the division. And I think Mike Tomlin wants to win this game, if for nothing else. You got to come in the playoffs on some kind of a roll. You got to. And I think that, but I think Cincinnati, they got the momentum, but that's going to be the thing. I don't think that Mike Tomlin's bunch is going to give it to him. I mean, Sapphire, am I right? I don't think they're going to give it to him, in my opinion. But because that's going to be a fight.
I don't know. I think about the number of points that Cincinnati has put up. You look at the whole season, right? I look at that, and then I try to contrast that with the Steelers' lack of offensive production, right? And then I come back to the defense, right? I just feel like both teams have a lot of incentive to win this game, but Cincinnati has one of the most high-powered offenses, and they don't need a lot of time, right? Right? What are you thinking, Irene?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking that as well, with the sense of, like, you have it's really ironic, if anything, because it's almost as though these teams have just gone the different way. They're pretty much traded places, and almost to some extent, like Cincinnati, like you said, high powered, really feeling it, going on a hot streak right now. Pittsburgh, the sturdy team, they know their style of ball, they understand their identity, and that's what works for them, and they look within their strengths. And the last 3 games, going against some of the other top heavyweights within the league, it has now worked to their advantage. And so the problem is now they're going up against pretty much a juggernaut within December and the Bengals, and you're wondering, do they still have enough to prevent them from going in and winning? And right now, just off what I've seen from Pittsburgh the last 3 games, I would have to say no. I would have to say that Cincinnati has more to play for than Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh already has their spot in the playoffs clinched. They could sit their starters out, lose this game, and they're good. They're guaranteed to play in January. Cincinnati is not. And all the pressure, like, jobs are on the line. Zach Taylor knows what's on the line with this.
Yep.
So that's why I would say no, because they have a lot to play for. Expectations, pressure, how it would like. You pretty much would be putting this team in the same boat as like the 2010 Chargers and other teams in history that had such a great high-powered offense and were unable to get into the playoffs because of the little things or other stuff that happened. So they don't want to be in that group. They don't want to be in that category. They at least want to get there and worry about everything else afterwards, but get there first, if you ask me.
And they're playing a team, especially on the offensive side, that's starting to believe in itself. Check this out.
I mean, I think we're the best offense in the league. You know, we've had our moments, just like every offense does, where, you know, you stall out a little bit. But, you know, we've been so consistent this whole year, and guys stepping up in big spots and making big plays for us. And guys go down, somebody else has to step up and make plays, and we've just consistently done that.
I mean, that's their quarterback. He's feeling confident. He knows he has weapons, right? He knows he has a little protection. If they can control the time of possession, even similarly to what they did to the Broncos, right? That's a problem for the Steelers. We saw them play from behind in that game against Kansas City. I'm just saying, guys, I don't think that we can just rule out the Cincinnati Bengals.
No, not at all.
Well, you can't rule out Pittsburgh either. And
no, you can't. You can't.
And my thing is this. Oh, go ahead, Ari. I'm going.
Well, no, real quick, I'll just add on briefly to that and just saying that was a great point, Sapphire, and also because I think back to when Pittsburgh played Philadelphia, and that was the one element of the game I was thinking about. It wasn't even anything within, you know, schemes or within different sets of what would work. It was primarily within Pittsburgh and Philadelphia being two of the top four at that time teams within average time of possession per game. Whoever could win that element will more than likely win the game. Yep. We saw what the Eagles did with the last 10 minutes. We talked about that a long time on this. So I agree with you on that. It's a great point. Chris, what were you going to
the last time they played, Russell Wilson had probably his best game of the season. And I don't know if he's going to do that this time around because I look at that, but I'm just keeping that in the back of my mind because I think at this point, you guys were saying that maybe Pittsburgh doesn't have an incentive to win the game. But given the last 3 weeks, they have plenty of incentive to win the game. They've got to they've got to get a win for their psyche because right now, I don't think any coach wants to go into a playoff run with 4 straight losses. And that's why I say, I mean, I will agree with you guys that I think that Cincinnati is they're like butter, they're on a roll, and I think that their offense has way more firepower than the Pittsburgh Steelers. But keep in mind is that, Mike Tomlin's going to have that team ready to play. And I don't think it's going to be an easy game. I think Cincy's going to win. If you want to ask me if you had to put a gun to my head and say who's going to win the game, I think Cincy has the better offense. But I'm not going to completely discount Pittsburgh in the sense that, I know that Mike Tomlin is a good, as Sapphire, you point out so many times, that Mike Tomlin will get that team ready to play, even though I think he's at a point of utter desperation at this point. But I think that no coach wants his team to go into the playoffs having lost 4 straight games.
Right. And so let me insert something in.
That sucked, to be blunt. Not the type of ball we want to play, and really kind of eerily similar to our last performance in that we're not doing the fundamental things well enough.
Similar to what, gentlemen? It's not fixed. It's broken.
Right.
It's broken. And Pittsburgh has a real problem. Yeah, they made it in the playoffs, but to our wonderful, wonderful boss's point, Pittsburgh is looking like a one and done. There's something that has changed within that locker room, something that has broken that, we could play some more clips here with Tomlin, but basically what I hear from him is he is desperate, right?
I have one answer, just one answer to that. My answer to this, have they won the turnover battle in the last 3 games? Have they won?
No, I don't think so, right?
One of the things that's missing from this team is the fact that they haven't won a turnover battle. And as a matter of fact, they have been more or less a victim of it. And I think at the end of the game, at the end of the day, that's always been their strength. The defense is carrying the burden. The offense, I think the offense lacks creativity. It lacks a sense of, to me, Najee Harris is good, but I don't think he gives them a spark. Jalen Warren, I've been saying this, Sapphire, to you and Irene, been telling you guys, that guy gives them a spark. I don't know why they don't use him, and maybe you all can fill me in on that and whatnot, but they need somebody to spark that offense, and they need somebody on defense to step up. That's where they've not forced turnovers, although Baltimore gave them one the last time they played. But in that situation, I just think that this team, that you're right, Sapphire, in a sense that this team hasn't been the same. They have, Pittsburgh forces turnovers. Pittsburgh on their defense causes chaos between JT Watt and Hayward and whatnot. And you got guys on that team, Joey Porter Jr. and you got so I can't remember the other guy's name on the other side of the line, but they got guys who can kind of cause chaos within that defense, and they haven't done it. And a lot of times when people have maybe the league has figured Pittsburgh out, in my opinion.
Well, and you know what? And real quick, sorry, that's the one thing I was thinking about, because I was thinking about thinking back to earlier in the year when looking at their strength of schedule, and a number of websites, including Sharp Football Analysis, had them within the top, with second hardest schedule or first or somewhere within that top 5 range. And does it say more? And they do have had quite the schedule this year. Does it say more within them knowing that, but also how they constructed the schedule, and to which they're thinking they can get to 10 wins by a certain point, because that's really what you need to be likely within the playoffs. And they saw that they clinched, and they're like, okay, bet, we're good. And then these other games, not so much Philly, but have been really used as those tests ahead of the playoffs, knowing that they're in the playoffs now. I'm just kind of thinking within the mentality, within kind of it like a conspiracies in a way, albeit in a way of like these games, like they're playing all these heavy weights to end the season off. I don't know too many coaches that would do that consistently. All of their games in December to end the season, heavyweight after heavyweight, non-divisional games too, in some.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason why they constructed their schedule in that manner?
I don't know so much about the schedule, and I get cranky, about a lot of different things when it comes to football. But for me, I would not want any cameras in the locker room. Bye-bye, HBO, Hard Knocks, NC. Get out, because, they did have such incredible success. And is that getting in between their ears, right? Are they losing their focus? Are they practicing the same way? Is it becoming that I? We talk about this before, the culture, the young players, their social media and all of this. Even if you're following Mike Tomlin's social, he's coming off a little different. So, we're all human, right? We lose focus. But to me, there is a timeline when you got distractions. We talked about this with other teams. It affects your on-field performance. But let's do this, gentlemen. Let's check out Mike Tomlin and his reasons why the Steelers lost that game. Let's see what he had to say.
Got to score more than 10 points against an outfit like that. And so, you can look at it from a lot of angles. The bottom line is junior varsity is not good enough. We got to own that. But we also got to look at what it is we need to do different. We're not going to continue to do the same things and hope for a different result. That doesn't seem sharp to me, and so we're going to take a hard look at this. We got a couple extra days before we get back into it.
Well, could it be? Could it be that, and this is the thing that Adam Schefter was trying to point out on ESPN. First of all, are the Steelers, when you look at the top two teams, well, we look at the top three teams in the league. Sorry, Cleveland. I don't mean to be mean, but
that's okay. You're gonna get it in this year. Get it in this year. Get it in. You deserve that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is this: I think the Bengals' offense is better than the Steelers' offense, and I think, and this is what Schefter was trying to point out. I mean, there's no really shame, but then again, it kind of is to losing the Philadelphia Eagles, who have a great running game and a good passing game. They lost to the Ravens, good running game, and Lamar Jackson. And I said passing game too, but they have Lamar Jackson. In a real sense, week 5 and other parts of the season notwithstanding, in one sense, and without George Pickens on the field for them, they don't really have a lot of talent. Now, granted, I can say they're probably misusing Jalen Warren. They need to get the ball to him in the passing game and in the running game, and you still keep Najee Harris. But in one sense, are the Steelers really as talented as the aforementioned teams, Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Kansas City on their schedule? I don't think they are. And that, I mean, wow. And they did a lot based on guts and guile. I mean, the Ravens imploded in the first game that they played Pittsburgh. And, at the end, and I think Cincinnati did too in their first game against Pittsburgh. So I just think at the end of the day that maybe the talent level is not there. I mean, we got to be honest about that. Mike Tomlin can do all the great coaching in the world, but if your talent is not there, then I don't know what's going on. So,
it's so fascinating to get that perspective, because obviously they're as talented. My view is the players are not executing. That, number one. Yeah. And number two, and Chris, we've been talking about this over the last few weeks, some of the play calling. Like, we talk about why, when you look at a Najee Harris and what he's done this year, the impact he's had on the game, and then you look at Warren, there were a lot of questions in that game. This last game, why wasn't Warren being used, especially in that second half? So check this out.
We got every intentions of doing so, whether you're talking about those guys or anyone else. The bottom line is, when you're not operating the way that we are, nobody gets to do what it is they desire to do. I'd like to get George Pickens more touches, etc. But again, we need to look at all of those things, because again, we're not going to continue to go through the same process and hope for a different result.
This is what I'm talking about. He's acknowledging that. Like, we all saw that. Like, where in the world was Warren, right? And Chris, remember, even, a month or so ago, we talked about one of his pressers at Philly game and why they didn't go for it in that situation. And he specifically said he had other people in his ear, and that was all he was going to say about it. So for me, when I hear that question that you asked, there's a couple of contributing factors to the reason why Pittsburgh has lost their last 3 games. But for me, it has nothing to do with the level of talent. There's some other things at play.
Behind the scenes.
Right.
What's that?
Behind the scenes things.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I just wanted to touch on this. Now that the Steelers have lost and Baltimore is taking pretty much control, they're in the driver's seat, if you will, for the AFC North. It was curious to me to hear Mike Tomlin respond to the fact that the Steelers lost control of the division. I'd like to share this with you as well.
Control, can be talked about, but the bottom line is, man, we're just not performing well enough. And so I'm less concerned about control of the division and more concerned about the quality of our performance at this juncture.
Execution, execution, execution. He knows it.
Yeah, he does. But he has to, like I said, and it's interesting you said the other voices in his ears and whatnot. But to me, he's the head coach. And as the head coach, it comes back to you. And like I said, I just found that it was curious in that Philly game that, you're down 2 scores. You only had the ball once in the first half, and it was almost, and you have to question it is because, and a lot of people in Pittsburgh are questioning Tomlinson as a coach. They're questioning his game management. They're questioning him. They're talking about, Ben Roethlisberger as a possible replacement. And that's the thing and that's from the Pittsburgh perspective. And so if you can't control, that's the first, you can't control the other voices. That does speak to something there on the coaching side of it. I don't know if some people may say that's not relevant, but, because he said it. He said it. He said, look, and the thing is, as the head coach, I think it's his responsibility. He's the law. He's the final authority on what's happening there. And and you do have to look at that as one of those things because he's the guy.
I mean, I would agree with that and to an extent, right? I mean, the greatest leaders don't keep the same style of leadership in place over time. Perhaps
Right.
This is part of what he said, that he's open to anything that will affect a different type of change. But I do recall, and by the way, let me just say this. I thought that Nate Burleson and JJ Watt called one of the best from an analyst play-by-play. I thought they called one of the best games I have seen in at least 10 years.
They're pretty good.
The way they broke it down, like a kindergartner could have understood what was going on. And segue into a clear statement that JJ made. And I believe he used the word crazy to describe any person that would not want Mike Tomlin to remain the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And when I heard that and the way that he said that, I thought, I'm hearing his brother, TJ Watt, also say the same thing, right?
Right.
It is, to me, could be a moment, and we'll never know because, Mike Tomlin runs his team like a 4-star general, I would imagine, does in the military. But I think he recognizes this is a call to action. And maybe that, I don't know how he coaches, but maybe he needs to become more of a micromanager and stop listening to those voices in the headset.
Well, let me ask this. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Sapphire. And some terrific points real quick, Chris. Only because I know we talked about Cincinnati and the likelihood of them winning a playoff game if they were to make it. Well, Pittsburgh, they got their spot clinched. We don't know the exact seeding yet, but the way things looking right now, could we see Pittsburgh winning a game in the come playoff time?
No. Depending who they're playing. Now they would be the 6th. No, they wouldn't be the 6th seed because they would be the 5th seed, which means they would play the winner of the AFC South, and the winner of the AFC South, that would be
Texans.
Oh my God, huh? The Texans. Oh, that's right. That's gonna be that would be a tough game for them, although that'd be a winnable game for them too, because I'm hoping, or you would hope that somehow Houston's head will be together after the butt whooping they took against Baltimore, and but that will be a tough game, but it's a winnable game for Pittsburgh if they got in, because Houston's injury situation, and I think it would be a closely contested game. And with the way the Steelers can play against a young team missing a lot of guys, that's a winnable game for them. That could be a winnable game.
And kind of a run up. Here's Russell Wilson on how the Steelers could potentially turn things around.
I think that first of all, we just have to play cleaner. That's gonna be the first part. I think the second part is we're gonna have to study the film, see where we're doing things really well. There's some moments. I mean, we scored a touchdown, got called back. Just those things that happen. In key situations, and then I think at the end of the day, there's going to be adversity in every season. And it comes in different spaces and places and different times. I'm betting on our guys and who we are.
So he talks about adversity in different places. I would agree with you, Chris, that if the parts fall into place, if Pittsburgh is playing the Texans, that would be a great moment for them to turn it around, right? I mean, we cannot dismiss the fact that while Pittsburgh has a lot of other options, wide receiver, tight end, we cannot dismiss the fact that they missed Pickens. They missed him, right? So could this be a situation, because, Rue and George had something going on. Could this be a situation where they just need a game or two to get back into a flow, not only between A-B, but then everybody feeds off of that as well? Could that be, that moment for the Pittsburgh Steelers to break this losing streak they've been on, and put multiple games together is what I'm saying.
Irie, go ahead. I'm still trying to get my thoughts together, but Irie, go right ahead.
Let me ask this real quick before you answer that.
Okay.
Is it privy of us to think of it in that manner? Are we exaggerating, or is it right because of the past history within their playoff exits? It's just like an opening going into your question, Sapphire.
Okay, check this out.
You could say that if you so choose, but I just tend to look at performances and what we're doing and what we're not doing. We regressed in terms of our turnover culture, in terms of maintaining possession of the ball and getting the ball. We've been a plus group in most instances, and that's really been a catalyst for us in terms of the games unfolding the way that we desire. The last 2 weeks in particular, we haven't been plus in that area. We've been minus in that area. And so the results are what they are.
They need a transitional type game, right? So think about what he just said in the context of your question, right? If they line up with the Texans, I'm just saying.
It would be a winnable game. It would be a winnable game for the Texans. For the Steelers. Because like I said, the Texans are injury depleted. So it could be a winnable game if they can force a turnover battle. And if they can, and I think they may be I think Houston's a little bit soft under the collar. I think they're a little soft. And I think that, D'Amico Ryans notwithstanding, I think it's a winnable game and whatnot, so I think they can do it if they can. But I think that they've got to come into that game on a roll. They can't lose 4 straight and come into the playoffs and all that. They can't do it. But they got to go back to their values because he mentioned the turnover battle. They've got to force this Bengals team into turnovers, and they got to score themselves, and they got to put points on the board because they play the Bengals on Saturday. They got, if recent trends keep up, they got to keep up with them and whatnot. They got to keep up with the Bengals, because if they don't, if Jamar Chase gets any kind of space or T. Higgins gets any kind of space, that game can end quickly for Pittsburgh.
Okay, I don't want to kill you guys with video clips.
No. Please.
Go ahead.
But I really think that Deshaun Elliott summed this up.
First off, guys can't be wide open. That's the first thing. Just do your job. feel like we communicated. Guys just weren't doing their freaking job. So get back to the drawing board. It's week 18. Shouldn't be having these problems in week 18. This is a week 1, week 2 problem. So I don't know where we went down the line, started becoming a whole different defense than what we were. But we got to get back to who we are.
That's the answer to T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, okay?
Right.
And Ayo Savage, right there. And I'm sorry because as a Browns fan,
that was beautiful, Sapphire. That was beautiful.
I'm just saying, I got chill bumps. I didn't want to bleep him out. I wanted to play the whole thing, but we're on a family-friendly platform.
Yeah, I got chills.
Because that's what's up. That's they know what they have to do. They know they have the capacity to do it. They have to execute. And if I'm Mike Tomlin, which I would never want to be because I don't take any cardiovascular, but no blood pressure, no statins. Okay, imagine the stress. But I would play my starters next Saturday every single minute of that game.
Yeah.
Maybe they need to rest. I mean, I have mixed emotions about that.
They've been resting the last 3 weeks. They haven't been executing.
That's true.
That's true. But then this also kind of goes back, earlier to my question of like what did they have in mind? And I know you said you don't really care. I'm just kind of bringing it back just within get our thoughts going. What did they have in mind when constructing their December schedule with two teams that have been in the Super Bowl in recent years, one of those defending champs going for a three-peat, and then a team that's in your division featuring the most featuring a two-time NFL MVP, and then and I won't really count the Browns within it because they don't really care what manner within this December schedule, but I mean afterwards, and then the Bengals of an offensive juggernaut, regardless of what their record is to end the season off. I'm just kind of thinking within what Tomlin had in mind within prepping his guys, almost as though he was confident he knew that this team could do something, but felt that these were the games and the time and place and positioning to get them right and ready ahead of the playoffs, because then it'll be like they've already gone through the best of the best, regardless of what the result is, and they'll explain and expose a lot of what needs to be done and said. So then whoever they play outs against won't be better than whoever they've gone up against in December.
Right. I mean, it's for me, it's a hard read with Tomlin, right? I mean, because he's so skilled at not showing his hand. He's probably a phenomenal bid whisk player, right?
Or a spades player.
Right. But I mean, for me, what I have seen of him over the years, right, is that he knows what each of his players' capabilities are. And so he's like a chess master, right, with that. Now, what I don't understand is over the last, I'll even say 4 weeks, what has changed with that dynamic, right? It's kind of like a professor that expects the students to come in, know, their content, right, and score heavy on the exam. There's an expectation there. He shouldn't have to be teaching these men how to play their specific positions. Something has changed. And so I don't know anything more than that. And when I think about this upcoming game, I think that depending on the outcome is the reason why last week Mike Tomlin said this.
This is what we do. It's what I love to do. Even on days like today. I love the game. I love working with that group in there. We're not performing the way that we need to. We'll stay down and keep working.
That little stuff, that little insignificant stuff, right? He's so much more, he's not as brash and insolent sounding as he was in the beginning part of the year. It's now more of kind of like what Myles Garrett said. It's about how you give your feedback in a constructive way to your players while making it clear to them they need to self-correct. There's an art form to that. If it's done the wrong way, they're going to shut down on you. The right way, they're going to respond to you. And I think that's what we're going to see on Saturday.
Well said.
Yeah. Okay. I think, but you're not going to give it to Cincinnati. I'll say that.
Brought her A game tonight. Real rap. Sorry, I just had to get that out. As you were saying, Chris.
I was saying Pittsburgh ain't going to give it to him, and that's what I'm trying to. That's what I'm trying to say to you guys. You know, Cincinnati is on a roll. They got that butter melting and everything. They're on a roll, but I think that Tomlin will get those guys jacked up to play, and they're going to. Cincinnati is going to win. But then they're not going to give it to them. They're not going to let. And Cincinnati can't turn the ball over, and their defense has got to play better.
Yeah.
They can't, they can't let that.
Cincinnati has to play the perfect game. Let's be clear about that. The perfect game.
Especially on defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is because the fact that they get is no disrespect to Pittsburgh, but the fact that they gave up 20 points in the second quarter alone last time that used to play, that was so glaring to me because the Pittsburgh, their offense is already at times indecisive, somewhat stagnant, while still finding a way somehow, even if it's rough style, to the end zone. But to allow them to have that kind of offensive explosion in one single period was glaring.
And that Hail Mary from Knicks to Mims, I was like, what is happening?
Right.
It was just, I don't know. I like I said, I don't want to beat this down in the ground, but they have to play a perfect game. And
100%. Well, real quick, I think that we made a lot of great points. Everybody's really brought their A game, especially you, Sapphire, within this topic. And sense, let's put a pin in this right now. Let's try to take 60 seconds. We'll be back, and we're going to talk more within the Ravens and Browns, and then give our predictions ahead of Week 18. So everybody, chill. 60 seconds. We'll be right back.
Set the trends, dog. Tell them tenfold, I'm gonna change the tempo, okay? Tell them I can't play it safe. Got more wins on the way. Gotta show them how to do it. Man, my team making plays. Okay, your team better play on. Sleeping on me, wake up. Too easy just to lay off, okay? Tell me who you know can do it better. I know, they know, we know I'm a trendsetter. Hey, okay, I know I'm here to say. Just counting on my wins, so I can't play it safe.
I really can't.
Get you out the way, go hard. It's the only way to play. Let me say, I'm a trendsetter. I'm a go-getter. I'm a trendsetter. I'm a go-getter. I'm a trendsetter. Who can do it better? I'm a go-getter. I'm a trendsetter. Hey, look, told them I would elevate. Now watch me go up. Critics acting up confused. They can watch me blow up. Knew I had it in the bag. I just had to show up.
All right. Not that I fully counted however long that was, but we're back and we're ready to go. Chris, I like that dancer, man. You was yeah.
I had to get the groove on.
Yeah.
I had, I had to get, since I have some alpha gear on and whatnot. So, I gotta represent a little bit, even though I'm the worst at
the fourth letter in the alphabet, the ninth number. Yeah. I peep. I love it. Let's ball. Well, so we've gone through quite a bit regarding Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, as we should. Now we're going to go on to Baltimore. Now they play the Browns.
Are we ready? Are we rolling right now?
Not that is really much for a discussion, but the Ravens, however, have clinched the playoffs, and they are coming off a really dominant win over Houston, 31-2 to be exact. It was impressive, really, really impressive the way. And we know, and we mentioned regarding the Texans and the problems at the injury problems. However, they still went out there and handled their business. And I still go back. I promise, I'm really not trying to sound like a broken record, but we talk about what's working and what's not, and what's really going to set the tone going into the postseason right now. And Baltimore has hit that point where they see and know and understand, especially after the loss to Pittsburgh, especially after that loss. They've really understood and said, hey, we're going to go in and we're giving the ball to Henry every play if possible, and we're going to allow him to set the tone, and we'll follow afterwards. That's the biggest takeaway that I came away with. They know and understand the strength within King Henry. And I just love the way that they're giving it to him, because he wants it. He's saying, feed me. He's expecting to go off into the end zone every play, every time that he touches the ball. And I love seeing that, because I did not want to be questioning their ability to do that at this point in the season. There's no reason to not do that, to not give the ball to Derrick Henry.
Yeah,
So
I mean that's the key.
yeah, like they're real. They're to me, it's not. You know, second right now, I believe in rushing yards at just a little under 1,800, just a little under. So that was my main takeaway, and that's what I just want to start off with because I love the run game and because I really enjoy watching a team that understands their strength and would like to give their running back the ball, not worried about having to put a bow on a pass or to make it pretty, but also just keeping things simple. You know, especially Baltimore. There's been a team I feel that, and we've always spoken about it as well, that at times tends to overthink the game or go to their weaknesses compared to their strengths. And their strengths is what's taking them right now and really has them looking well ahead of postseason. So thoughts within that game and especially within the defense holding Houston to 2 points on the day.
Well, I gotta say this: the defense shut out. The defense has played well. You know, in the last since the bye week, that defense has played well, and really since the Pittsburgh game, because I think they brought in Dean Peace and everything to work with Zachary Orr, and that defense has just played well. Even in that Pittsburgh loss, they held Pittsburgh to no touchdowns. In this game last Wednesday, Christmas Day, they shut out the Houston offense. The only reason why they even got a point in that game because they caught Derrick Henry in the backfield. But keep in mind, Derrick Henry and Ivory, you make a good point. You know, while Lamar was throwing the passes, Derrick Henry basically enabled Lamar to get those passes. He enabled Lamar's big run that 50-yard, 45, 50-yard run in the second in the third quarter. It was the third quarter that pretty much the game was over. And because that to me was the optimal way, the optimal or the ideal performance that the Ravens need to carry with them into the postseason. Run the ball. Lamar will get his big runs, or he'll find guys downfield and whatnot if that running game is working. He can't go in trying to pass on every down. In spite of his improved ability to pass, everything fed off of Henry. Henry scored one touchdown in the game, but that big run by Lamar Jackson, the two passes, and although the pass to Isaiah Likely for a touchdown was just how great Lamar Jackson is, but everything fed off that running game. I read to support your point. Everything fed off that running game, and if you got Derrick Henry running like that in the playoffs, Lamar is going to have a field day. He might run a 50-yard touchdown. He might throw a 60-yard touchdown. So when the running game is going, do not break anything do not fix anything that's not broken. They need to run because who's going to stop them? It kind of reminds me of whether or not the Sixers will ever put Joel Embiid in the paint. Who's going to stop him? And if you run the ball with Derrick Henry, who in the AFC going to stop him? Nobody's going to stop him, or there is no one that will stop him. I'm not going to say ain't nobody because I come from a home that people worry about my grammar. But when I'm saying to you, run the ball. Very simple. You know me. Very simple. Run the ball. Meat, potatoes, vegetables. That's it. Run the ball. That's all you got to do.
Exactly.
And then playing lights out.
Sapphire, thoughts?
I mean, I agree with that. Chris and I have been talking about this all year. They didn't seem to be consistent with utilizing Derrick Henry. To that, I will add this, ... as long as he's running vertical, not horizontal, right? That's the thing that I am saying. Those aren't just happenstance tackles. There's something about, and I feel the same way about tight ends. For example, David Njoku, the Cleveland Browns, besides the fact that he needs to come into camp at least 15 pounds lighter next year if they keep him, they're big. You got to run them up and down the field, not these outs. I don't think that plays to Baltimore or Derrick Henry's strength at all. So, I would agree with what Chris's initial kind of observations were about the game.
Okay. And let me just say as well, too, the reason why you guys hear me speak about the run game the way I have, especially within recent weeks, because I think back to last year. I think back to that AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
I think back to the way that it wasn't even so much Kansas City taking away the run game, but Baltimore taking it out themselves.
Yep.
You know, they had four. They have 46. Bless you, Sapphire. Allergies going around people. Please stay clean. Please stay safe. But it was really more so the way that Baltimore took it out themselves. Like it was still a productive run game in some sense. They were still getting around 5 yards per carry, whether it be Lamar scrambling out or going to their whoever was in the backfield, whether it be Gus Edwards or somebody. But that was the one takeaway I think that everybody thought about, that they did not run the ball enough. And even going back, starting this season, you go back to their first game of the season, Kansas City, when they lost to them, that is the only game this season in which Derrick Henry did not finish the team high, rusher for the Ravens this season. That's the only game.
Right.
I'll chalk it up to adjusting, transitioning, getting back used to things and stuff. But if they want to beat Kansas City, they have, and this is just in the sense of thinking, this is a team that still has yet to get over the hump, still has yet to really get over and figure out a way to get to the big game, which more than likely would have to come within going up and matching up against Kansas City. The way that they're going to have to beat them specifically matchup-wise is by running the ball. So to see Henry really find it and really get it going, and to see them learn from their mistakes in that loss to Pittsburgh, when they stopped giving the ball to him, when he already had 8 carries for over 50-plus yards in the first half, and they had 5 carries in the second half total in that game, and see him going obviously and consistent the way he has, gives me so much confidence in them really sticking to the shows. Even in moments, going back to when they beat Pittsburgh, after Henry went on for that 44-yard run, and they passed it, that's a pick, and they went back to their strips, and that's what carried them to the win. To see that gives me much confidence in saying that they know their strength, they know what's going to win. Like you said, Chris, I really don't care how many touchdown passes Lamar goes for. It's the basic certain intangibles and fundamentals that helps you win in the playoffs, helps you win January. And a strong element within that is running the ball. And when you got one of the best, if not the best running backs in the game, and your backfield who's winning the ball every single time, why not give it to him? Because he's hungry to win just as much as you are.
Yeah, he's going to dictate everything they do in these playoffs, and that's going to be the thing. They stick to that. They're in the Super Bowl. They're in New Orleans. I'll say that. I'll be bold and say that.
Oh, that is bold, because you cannot forget about our cousins up in the AFC East. The Bills are balling. You cannot rule them out.
I'm not ruling them out. I'm not ruling them out at all. I just think if they can play their game, they can beat anybody. That's what I'm saying. I ain't ruling nobody because, and besides that, as a Ravens fan, and a historic Baltimore fan, I'm never, because I've seen all kinds of weird and whack, crazy things that have happened to both Colts and the Ravens over the years I've watched pro football. So I'm never that certain. I'm never that certain and whatnot. I just say that if they do it right, they'll do it right. But I've been around, and I agree. You made a great point. That was the thing, because that was a winnable game. They should have beaten Kansas City right there. Kansas City had
all the time,
and they had them right there. And all they had to do was all they had to do is just knock them out. That's all they had to do. But don't overthink the game. Don't overthink.
Shoulda. Like, how many teams have said that about the Kansas City Chiefs, man?
That's true.
How many teams have said, but they are dynasty material, right? And you look at Patrick Mahomes, who what was the record that he broke? Most touchdowns in a certain number of years. But I think, was it Tom Brady or like, I know Dan Marino was in the picture, maybe it was Tom Brady, but people forget that asterisk. He only played one game in his in the first year.
He did.
So that's like comparing apples to oranges.
Here's my question to that. Here's my quick rebuttal. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Please.
No, go ahead.
Here's my quick rebuttal to that. How many teams can say, at least within their dynasty, that they hosted Kansas City in an AFC Championship game?
One. Not many teams have hosted, and Baltimore had a chance to beat them.
One. I mean, not Kansas City having to go and knock out somebody else, and then they have to they have home advantage going into the final conference game. They still have to go on the road because that top seed who wants to have their number is hosting and saying you got to come to this side if you want to get back to the big game. One team can say that they hosted them. That's rare right now within this dynasty to say somebody's hosting Kansas City, especially in the AFC Championship game. One team. And to see that one team go out the way they did, playing such underwhelming ball when it mattered most, doing the most opposite of things that we have seen them do during the season, and which last season specifically started with them having the lowest expectations, at least from the outside looking in the media, not knowing what to see, what to expect. Lamar wanting out. Lamar wanting to leave, maybe wanting more money. They don't know. What happens? Signs a new contract. People say he's not worth it. Goes out, shuts everybody up, MVP year, to the point where people have to give him props, have to give this team props, and say maybe it is their year. Because how many teams can say that they're the number one seed within this dynasty of Kansas City right now? And what did they do? They blew it.
Yeah. They got to own that. They blew that game, and I think I still think Ravens do what they supposed to do. If they play it right, they can beat anybody in this league. They can beat them, but it's not going to be easy. But I've seen teams, like I said, and Lamar has to prove that. Lamar has to me, if he proves that and they get to the Super Bowl and win it, first ballot Hall of Famer in my mind. But he's got, and Baltimore historically, because who's the other team that kind of kept things relatively honest against the Ravens always played well against the New England Patriots. Couldn't get past Pittsburgh, but they always played against the number one dynasty of our era so far. And so the Ravens have to go in there, and I mean this is theirs to win. They can go and do it, and they're going to have to go through. They'll probably have to go through Buffalo. And if you're going to be great, this is where Lamar, Derrick Henry. This is because it's going to be a gauntlet. After they get past their first playoff game, they got to go through the gauntlet of. They probably will have to go to Buffalo, where the Bills have beaten them before in the playoffs, and they have to go through the gauntlet of Kansas City. You want a championship? You want to win? There it is, right there. And sometimes you got to go through the tough. Ravens have done it before. You got to go through. You got to go. Sometimes teams play better on the road, but it's right there. So.
And it's so fascinating. I think this is another case of how much Lamar Jackson's greatness over multiple years has desensitized people to the point where there's still a notion that after all of the stats, especially this year, after all of the accomplishments and the records, everything is still just on his back, right? And to this point, if he's having a great week, he's fielding questions like this.
I always say I'm not the one catching the passes, blocking, to help me get these passes off, stuff like that. That's offensive line, tight ends, receivers, running backs. It's everybody, all of us included. But I'm trying to win the championship, man. That's my biggest goal. That's been my goal ever since a little kid. But an MVP in the National Football League, that's dope.
Do you ever get a chance to get caught up in because everyone's talking about you, Josh Allen, going back for. Do you hear that? I know you try to kind of insulate yourself, but do you hear that, Chad?
But they hear it. Don't mean to cut you off, but they tag me in it. Like you don't gotta tag me. You can talk about all you want, but you want to tag me to get like clickbait because sometimes I'm gonna say something back like that was stupid, But it is what it is, man. I don't care though. I really don't care about the talk. Come on, trying to win.
Yeah.
Singularly focused. He gave props to his personnel around him. Yes, he's the face of the organization, and people have put a lot on him because he has consistently played at a high level, right? And so for me, he doesn't care about MVP. That's not what I hear. He just wants the ring. And I think this year is going to be one of his more dynamic years. And I think that Baltimore, as difficult as it is, I think they're right there in that conversation to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl.
100%. I have more confidence. Like after Kansas City, Baltimore is still that second team that I can see representing the conference. in the Super Bowl, before Buffalo, before Pittsburgh, before any of these other teams, because they're right there and they know it. And they have been really focused for most of the season and right now at when it matters most. So, yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. So that's that within this. Thank you. Cleveland, for better or worse, they are part of the division. Sad part, we're going to try to keep it to 90 seconds for you. Okay? No more than 90 seconds. Let's get the rundown. All right? So, the Browns lost to the Dolphins 20-3 on Sunday. It's another bad game. Another terrible, terrible game. That's pretty much the dimensions of it. Myles Garrett turned 29 on December 29th. 2 sacks. Got him to 14, became the first player since sacks became an official statistic in 1982 to have 14 sacks or more in 4 consecutive seasons. But guess what? Still didn't care. He still talked about it just being an L. And now the wins is what matters most at the end of the day. That is correct. Denzel Ward got hurt, was out for the game. Jordan Hicks as well. Got hurt at one point, was limited, I believe, out for the game as well. Jerry Jeudy was targeted more, 18 times, caught 12 of those. However, he did have 3 drops, and drops was a prevalent highlight within the loss for this team. Furthermore, the run game was solid, 114 rushing yards on a day. But, of course, the main thing was regarding Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 170 yards, completed around 51% of his passes, along with 1 interception. But the most glaring was his 3 intentional groundings penalties. 2 of those you can say related to him. The other one was miscommunication because Pierre Strong ran left on the screen pass while the O-line ran right. So, in other words, there's a lack of cohesiveness that pretty much implies and shows that there has to be some type of cleaning out, whether it be the staff, roster, both up top, down top, left top, right top, in top, the root of it. However you want to be around the circular atmosphere of this franchise. And last but not least, after that, and after the Giants won, the Browns are now one of, I believe, 4 teams tied for the worst record in the league with 3 wins. An amazing, amazing feat. They went from playing for the Super Bowl to now playing for a top 5 pick. Job well done. Now, after that 9 seconds is done, let's go on to prediction, shall we?
Well, before we get to that, let me drop these on you guys. You mentioned Myles Garrett's record in terms of consecutive sacks for consecutive.
Personally, at this moment, no. And I'm now I'll see my family in a short second, and they'll tell me that and try to put a smile on my face, and I'll still be holding on to this L because at the end of the day, we play for wins. The individual stuff is great, it's nice. You want to be remembered for all the above, but cities remember you for wins and bringing championships, back home. And, that's always been my intention. So I want to get back on track. I want to get back to winning, whether it's the last one or, whatever's in store next season. They're all frustrating in a loss. Whether it's the first one or the 14th one or however many more there's out there for us. So it doesn't make it any better or any worse.
I'm just going to say this. Browns Nation, our misery, our pain and agony will be over very soon, and I hope we don't lose the faith. I feel very emotional and proud that Myles Garrett has represented us for the time that he has done so, and I wish him the best of luck if the Browns don't figure it out. That man is the face. He gets the culture. He gets the history of our team. And it's so unfortunate that the Browns have put a product on the field in 2024 that's the antithesis of what you just heard from probably the greatest Browns defensive player of all time.
Wow. That's,
powerful.
That's powerful. It's one of those things that, but it's a shame. And I blame the organization for that. I blame the Browns organization and just terrible. And that team was a contender. I don't know if it was the Dallas game, but that team was a contender. Ever since that game, they've been down.
Set the tone. Yeah. It set the tone. And I I really didn't want to spend too much time on it, but now that you mentioned it, now I just have to say real quick, Chris. I thought about that quite a bit this month. Really after the bye week, but especially this month once being eliminated. And I'm just thinking like that game versus week 1, 425 primetime game, primetime slot on Fox. Tom Brady starting his broadcasting career in Cleveland for that game. Everybody, it's a who's who is in the house. Cowboys at Browns, possibly 2 contenders. The Cowboys, of course, nah. Browns, though, even more surprising. And I really did set the tone for the season that we watched, and that is almost over and will be over January 4th versus the Ravens. And then after that, we'll be exit interviews, players clean out their lockers, explaining all the filler questions and maybe a little more raw questions at moments as to what went wrong. Why did it go this way? Why did you only have 3 wins? Why did only one of those wins come outside of your division? What happened? What went wrong? Players will have to answer. Coaches will have to answer. Staff will have to answer. Keep in mind, I don't want to talk like this about the Browns. I really don't. I don't. But the occupation I have is to report on what is presented to us as what is seen, and to go about that. I'm not, you're not going to speak about them in a great tone because that's not what things are right now. Stuff is hitting the fan. The window of excuses is closing. It was not already closed. No, it's pretty much closed now. And
Right.
the window of winning is coming down faster and faster.
Yep.
Is it still open? Are they going to find a way to extend it and push it a little bit higher? Time will tell. I will ask you this to you two, at least, and primarily you, Sapphire, just within a future way. It's looking like the Browns are going to get a top 5 draft pick. I'm hoping that's water inside the mug and not something else. I understand if not. But Browns have a top 5 draft pick. What position are you drafting? I'm not even going to ask Claire, but what position?
My answer would be it depends on the conversation that I'll never know the particulars that they're going to have with Myles Garrett. That's my answer. Before Chris and I talk about this, we go different directions, but the whole future of this franchise is going to hinge upon that conversation.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna have to. I mean, what do you do with Myles? With Myles Garrett, you get draft choices because it's kind of frustrating. It's kind of frustrating on one level to rebuilding programs after you thought you were rebuilding programs that come after a year that you thought you were going to be a contender. That's frustrating. And I don't know if the Cleveland Browns have bad luck. I don't know if it's dumb luck, but it's just, that it's disconcerting because especially when you came into the year with every expectation. Am I right, Irie, that this is going to be a contending year?
Oh, no, not every Browns fan thought that.
Sapphire did not. I'm going to find a clip so that we play it hopefully the next episode where Sapphire did say, I don't see this team winning more than 5 games.
Yeah.
Sapphire said that.
Was that before or after the Cowboys game? Was that before or after the Dallas
we
game?
did our projections for the season before the Cowboys game.
Oh, okay.
And so for me, I'm only a fan.
Right.
I'm not a coach. I've never been a coach, all of that. But I do know what Browns fandom is, what the culture is, what this team is built on. And I have coined Coach Kevin Stefanski. I don't know the man. I'm certain he will be wealthy for the rest of his life with all the money he'll get, whatever, right? He's a Madden style coach. He's a Madden style. Like, you remember the video game Madden, right?
Yeah.
Right?
We
This is what it is. It's his system. And yes, he was named Coach of the Year twice. That's all paper stuff. And you hear that in what Myles Garrett said. He didn't care about any of those personal accolades. It's about wins and losses and what you bring back to your fans. And I just feel like, and maybe it's these younger coaches, except for maybe 1 or 2, they just don't get that. This is a pass through, right? You look at Hard Knocks, and if you watch those episodes, specifically the ones that show how he's engaging with his players, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. There's such a disconnect. They haven't bought into it. And that's not just this year. Okay. So every time I tell you, I don't want to let you get me ginned up. I get ginned up. The problem is the system that is in Berea, Ohio right now. And it's just time for a change. 5 years of this is too much. There's complete chaos going on from a fandom experience. There's so much going on that people outside of Cleveland Browns universe don't know about. And that's a good thing because it's a distraction from the game. But please, I wish the man, his family, mom, them the best. It's time to move on. This is horrific. They are the worst football team in the league, Irie.
The Cleveland Browns.
So yes, to answer your question, I called this before the season started.
She did. No, she did. She did. I promise.
I don't doubt
we're gonna
that.
find a clip, people. I promise respect. I promise respect. You know what? That was a mic drop from the one and only Sapphire. So you know what? Let's keep it at that. Let's go on into predictions. Productions. Not that the Browns are predicting much. All right, prediction time. So you have everybody in the division playing against each other. One in the last week. Steelers hosting the Bengals.
Okay. I'll say my prediction is this. Ravens will, of course, beat the Browns. But I think Pittsburgh knocks off Cincinnati again. I don't know why. They're at home and all that. But if they don't, let me say if I'm wrong, the fans are gonna be yelling, "Fire Tomlin." They
already are.
No, right.
That's a fact, though. I'm gonna go with the Bengals on this. It's been a long time since I've chosen the Bengals, but they're too hot and too good right now, and they're feeling it too well for me to bet against them. And they have a lot more to play for than Pittsburgh does. And I'm curious, and like Sapphire's talking about regarding behind the scenes stuff, I'm curious to see if that specific element will be shown in some kind of visible way regarding Pittsburgh compared to Cincinnati.
All right. Well, I'm gonna stick with the Steelers because of their defense.
All right. There we have it there. Ravens, Browns. I assume the Stars will be playing for Baltimore as of right now until further notice. But even regardless of they or not, I still would go with the Ravens because the Browns will more than likely beat themselves before they give the other team a chance to. Are we all in agreement regarding Baltimore? Say aye.
Okay.
All right.
Well, here's the thing.
Smackdown. Lamar Jackson should be out of that game with 5 minutes left in the third quarter, right? And so should Myles Garrett.
Right.
Yeah.
I would hope that you're right. I hope you're right about that, Sapphire. But what the quote Don Corleone, I'm a very superstitious man, and I'm wondering, whether or not the Ravens are going to be focused. They're going to win, but as I am a faithful fan and whatnot, I just want them to come in there, settle this game early. In other words, the way they bumped off Houston last week, that's what I want to see. I want to see focus. I want to see run game. I want to see them run them. I want to see the Browns running. No offense, Sapphire. I want to see the Browns running to the Catskill River. That's what I want to see and whatnot.
There you have it. So we're all in agreement then, right?
Right, we're all in agreement. I want the Browns running to the Catskill River. So.
Hey, who's buying the cheesesteaks?
I'll buy the cheesesteaks. Although if we're in Baltimore, I want a dozen crabs.
I could do that too. I could do the crabs too.
Yeah, man. You know, and everybody. I'll get 2 dozen crabs. That's 2 dozen crabs. So everybody eat them because I love crabs. I eat crabs all day. I eat them things all day.
He's going down the rabbit hole, Irene.
I know. I love it. Well, with that being said, thank you all again for tuning in tonight. We hope everybody enjoys their Happy New Year. You know, please be healthy. Please, you know, stay warm and enjoy this time. You know, going into the new year with your family and friends. You know, loved ones, wherever it's important. You know, to you in your life. You know, please reflect. Think about the good or bad and what's made you who you are today. Going into the new year. And most importantly, please like, subscribe, and share, and please follow us on socials. You can follow us everywhere at Future North 4. The number 4 as you see at the bottom right there on the X, Blue Sky. You know it. We appreciate doing this content, and we look forward to getting better. And the bigger our support goes, the more and bigger our episodes become. So we do that, and we'll leave you all with that. Thank you again. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Fear the North is out. And we'll see you guys in the new year. Happy New Year, y'all.
Happy New Year. Espero año